I told my parents I won't change my name because of their regret. They didn't understand. How could they? For 23 years, I carried his name like a scar. Theodore Vincent Ashford Jr., a monument to a man who measured fatherhood in biological contribution rather than presence. Mom chose that name. She was 19, pregnant, and desperately believing that giving me his complete identity would somehow anchor him to us. It didn't. He left 3 weeks after my first birthday, chasing something more interesting than diapers and responsibility. The name became a ghost I dragged through childhood. Teachers calling roll, coaches reading rosters, doctors in waiting rooms. Each utterance was a small reminder that I was named after someone who didn't want to know me. Kids would ask if I was named after my dad, and I'd have to decide whether to lie or explain. Usually I lied. It hurt less. When I turned 18, I walked into the courthouse with forms I'd filled out in careful block letters. I became Elliot Reeve, my maternal grandmother's maiden name, a lineage that actually showed up, that cooked Sunday dinners and attended school plays and taught me how to change oil in a car. It felt like shedding skin, like finally being allowed to breathe without the weight of his absence crushing my chest. Mom cried when I told her, not because she disagreed, but because it meant acknowledging what she'd tried to ignore for 18 years, that the man she'd loved hadn't just left her, he'd left us both. The name had been her last thread of hope that he might come back. I watched that thread snap in real time, saw decades of denial crumble in her expression. Dad, my real dad, the man who married Mom when I was 4 and never once treated me like anything other than his son, he just hugged me. You do what you need to do, he said, simple, supportive, present, everything the other man never was. For 5 years, I built myself. College degree, good job, an apartment with my girlfriend Vivian. I became Elliot Reeve, and Theodore Vincent Ashford Jr. became a story I occasionally told at bars, a wound that had scarred over enough to touch without flinching. Then last Tuesday, Mom called. He wants to see you. 3 words that detonated carefully constructed peace. Apparently, Theodore Vincent Ashford Sr. had been diagnosed with something serious, terminal enough to trigger whatever conscience he'd been suppressing for 2 decades. He'd reached out through some cousin I barely remembered, asking to meet. Wanting forgiveness, probably. Or maybe just an audience for his deathbed performance. You don't have to, Mom said quickly. I told him you changed your name. I told him you have a life. But I also told him I'd ask. I told her I needed time to think. That was 6 days ago. Now I'm sitting in my car outside a coffee shop downtown, watching a man who shares my jaw structure and eye color through the window. He's older than I imagined. Grayer. Smaller somehow. Diminished. He keeps checking his phone. Nervous. The irony isn't lost on me. He's anxious about whether I'll show up. My phone buzzes. Mom, just remember, you owe him nothing. Dad, my real dad, texted earlier. Whatever you decide, we're here. Vivian's message came this morning. You're not doing this alone, but I am alone. In this moment, in this car, with my hand on the door handle and my heart doing something complicated in my chest. 23 years of anger, grief, and hard-won peace all colliding at once. Because here's what nobody tells you about closure. Sometimes the door you thought you'd sealed shut decades ago suddenly cracks open again, and you have to decide whether to kick it closed or walk through. Theodore Vincent Ashford Sr. looks up. For a second, our eyes meet through the glass. He recognizes me. I can see it. The shock, the recognition, maybe even regret. My phone buzzes again. It's a number I don't recognize. The message reads, please, just 5 minutes. I know I don't deserve it. I don't move. Not yet. Instead, I watch him through the windshield like he's a specimen under glass. He's wearing a button-down shirt, wrinkled at the elbows, tucked into jeans that look too big for his frame. There's a tremor in his hands when he picks up his coffee cup. Fear, maybe. Or illness. Or both. The man who abandoned me is afraid of me. The realization hits like a physical thing, settling somewhere between my ribs. For 23 years, he's been a monster in my head. This towering figure of rejection and inadequacy. But sitting here watching him fidget with a paper napkin, he looks painfully, devastatingly human. That makes it worse somehow. Another text appears. I understand if you can't. I just wanted you to know I'm here, that I came. The audacity of that statement. The sheer fucking audacity. He wanted me to know he came. Like showing up to one meeting could somehow balance the scales of 22 years of absence. Like driving to a coffee shop was equivalent to raising a child. My hand tightens on the door handle until my knuckles go white. I should leave. Drive away and let him sit there, wondering. Let him feel a fraction of the uncertainty I felt every birthday when I'd secretly hope for a card that never came. Every father-son event at school where Dad would step in, solid and present, while I pretended it didn't gut me that my biological father couldn't be bothered to remember I existed. But I don't leave. Because there's a part of me, small, stubborn, still carrying some residual hope from childhood, that needs to know. Not forgiveness, not reconciliation, just knowledge. What kind of person abandons their own child? What kind of man looks at a 1-year-old and decides that's where his responsibility ends? I need to see the architecture of that choice up close. Before I can talk myself out of it, I'm out of the car. The February air bites at my exposed skin, sharp enough to ground me. My legs carry me toward the coffee shop entrance on autopilot, and I focus on breathing. In for 4 counts. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The technique my therapist taught me for managing panic attacks. The bell above the door chimes when I enter. He stands immediately, knocking his coffee cup and sending a small wave of liquid across the table. His hands shake worse when he tries to mop it up with napkins. Elliot, he says, and my name in his mouth sounds wrong, foreign. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure. I thought maybe 5 minutes, I interrupt, sliding into the chair across from him. You said 5 minutes. Up close, the resemblance is undeniable and unsettling. It's like looking into a distorted mirror. Same angular jaw, same deep-set eyes, same widow's peak. But where I'm solid from years of gym sessions and running off stress, he's gaunt, hollowed out. His skin has that papery quality that speaks to illness, and there are shadows under his eyes that look permanent. 5 minutes, he agrees, sitting back down slowly. I'm grateful. Really. I know I have no right to ask anything from you. You don't, I confirm. My voice comes out harder than I intended, but I don't soften it. So why am I here? He flinches. Actually flinches, like my words are physical blows. Good. I have pancreatic cancer, he says bluntly. Stage 4. They gave me 3 to 6 months, maybe a year if I'm lucky. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because it's why I finally... He stops, swallows hard. It's why I finally stopped being a coward. The word hangs between us. Coward. At least he's not trying to dress it up with euphemisms. You want absolution, I say. It's not a question. No. He shakes his head, and something in his expression shifts. No, I don't. I don't think I deserve that. I want... Christ, I don't even know. I wanted to see you, to tell you that leaving was the worst thing I ever did, and that not having the courage to come back was the second worst. I wanted you to know that you deserved better, that you deserved a father who showed up. I had one, I tell him flatly. I have one. His name is Raymond Reeve. He taught me how to ride a bike and helped me with algebra homework and sat through my terrible middle school band concerts. He's the one who drove me to college and helped me move into my first apartment and gave me relationship advice when I was terrified of screwing things up with Vivienne. That's my father. Something crumbles in Theodore Sr.'s expression. I'm glad, he whispers. I'm glad you had that Raymond, that he was there. Don't, the word comes out sharp. Don't pretend like you care now. Don't act like you're happy I had a father figure when you made yourself irrelevant. He nods, accepting the blow. You're right, I'm sorry. I'm not good at this. At what? Conversation? Basic human decency? Showing up 2 decades too late? All of it. His laugh is bitter, self-deprecating. I was 21 when you were born. Barely more than a kid myself. Your mom and I, we were a mess. I was a mess. I was drinking too much, working dead-end jobs, convinced I was going to amount to nothing. When she got pregnant, I panicked. And I kept panicking for a year until I convinced myself you'd both be better off without me dragging you down. That's bullshit, I say, leaning forward. You don't get to reframe abandonment as some noble sacrifice. You left because it was hard and you were selfish. Own it. You're right, he says again. You're absolutely right. I left because I was a selfish, scared kid who couldn't handle the responsibility. I told myself you'd be better off without me, but really I just didn't want to deal with it. With you. And by the time I grew up enough to realize what I'd done, it felt too late. The damage was done. How do you come back from that? You don't, I tell him. Some things you don't get to come back from. The silence that follows is heavy, oppressive. He's crying now, quiet tears that track down his weathered face. I feel nothing watching it. Or maybe I feel too much, all the emotions canceling each other out into a numb static. I don't want anything from you, he says eventually. I know I don't get to be in your life. I know I don't get to know you, but I needed you to know that I see what I did, that I understand the weight of what I took from you, from us, and that I'm sorry, even if it doesn't matter, even if it changes nothing. I'm sorry. I check my phone. 7 minutes have passed. Time's up, I say, standing. He looks up at me, eyes red-rimmed, and nods. Thank you for coming, for giving me this much. I should leave it there, walk away clean, but there's something lodged in my throat, something that needs to be said, or it'll rot inside me. I changed my name when I was 18, I tell him. Elliot Reeve. I took my grandmother's maiden name because she was there, because her legacy meant something. Theodore Vincent Ashford Jr. Died in a courthouse 5 years ago, and I don't regret it for a second. He absorbs this like another punch. I understand. Do you? I challenge. Do you understand what it's like to hate your own name? To hear it called out and feel your stomach drop because it's a constant reminder that you weren't wanted? That's what you gave me. That's your legacy. I know. His voice breaks. I know, and I can't. There's no fixing it. There's nothing I can do to take that back. No, I agree. There isn't. I turn to leave, but his voice stops me. Elliot? I don't turn around, but I pause. I'm proud of you. I know I don't get to be, but I am. The man you've become. You did that despite me, and I'm proud. The rage that floods through me is white hot and clarifying. I turn back slowly. You don't get to be proud. You don't get to claim any part of who I am. I'm not your redemption story. I'm not the thing that makes your deathbed confession meaningful. I became this person in spite of you, and you get no credit for it. None. He nods, defeated. You're right. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing, I snap. Your apologies don't fix anything. They're just words you need to say to feel better about yourself. Then what do you want from me? He asks, and there's genuine confusion in his voice. The question stops me cold. What do I want? Not forgiveness. I'm not there and might never be. Not a relationship. That ship sailed 22 years ago. Not money or excuses or explanations that would somehow make it all make sense. Nothing, I realize aloud. I want nothing from you, and that's the point. You're irrelevant to my life. You have been for years. Coming here doesn't change that. He nods slowly, accepting this final verdict. Okay. Thank you for telling me. I leave without another word. The drive home passes in a blur. My hands are shaking on the steering wheel, adrenaline finally catching up with me. I pull into a random parking lot 3 blocks from my apartment and just sit there trying to breathe through the tightness in my chest. My phone rings. It's Vivienne. Hey, I answer, my voice rougher than I intend. Hey yourself, she says gently. You okay? I don't know. Did you meet him? Yeah, and I don't know, I repeat. Viv, I thought I'd feel something. anger or closure or satisfaction or something, but I just feel empty. Where are you? Parking lot off 9th Street. Stay there. I'm coming to you. She hangs up before I can protest, and 15 minutes later her car pulls up next to mine. She climbs into my passenger seat without asking, bringing the smell of her jasmine perfume and the warmth of her presence. Tell me, she says simply. So I do. I tell her everything. The way he looked diminished and sick, the apologies that felt both genuine and insufficient, the way my own rage surprised me with its intensity. I tell her about him saying he was proud, and how those words felt like theft. Vivian listens without interrupting, her hand finding mine somewhere in the middle of the story. You know what the worst part is? I say finally. I thought meeting him would give me closure, that I could put this whole thing to rest. But now I just have more questions. Like, why now? Why does dying make him suddenly care about making amends? Where was this conscience for the last 22 years? Maybe dying is what it took for him to face what he'd done, Vivian suggests carefully. Maybe it's easier to ignore your failures when you think you have unlimited time to fix them. That's not fair, though. I don't get to benefit from his crisis of conscience. I don't get those years back. No, she agrees. You don't. And that's the thing about trauma. It's not fair. The people who cause it rarely understand the full weight of what they've done. They get to walk around carrying their guilt, which is nothing compared to what you carried. I lean my head back against the seat. I told him my name, about changing it. I wanted him to know that I erased him completely. How did he react? Like I'd stabbed him, which is probably what I wanted. Vivian squeezes my hand. You're allowed to want to hurt him. He hurt you first. But it didn't make me feel better. That's what I thought would happen. I'd tell him off, make him feel small, and I'd walk away victorious. Instead, I just feel tired. That's okay too, she says. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. You don't have to know how you feel or what this means. We sit in silence for a while, her thumb tracing circles on the back of my hand. Do you want to go home? She asks eventually. Not yet. Can we just sit here for a bit? As long as you need. That night, I dream about names. In the dream, I'm back in elementary school, sitting at a desk too small for my adult body. The teacher, a faceless figure made of shadows, calls roll. Theodore Ashford Jr., she says, and every kid in the class turns to look at me. Their faces are blank, featureless, but I can feel their judgment like heat. That's not my name, I try to say, but when I open my mouth, nothing comes out. Theodore Ashford Jr., the teacher repeats louder this time. Theodore Ashford Jr., Theodore Ashford Jr. The name echoes, multiplying, until it's all I can hear. I try to stand, to run, but I'm rooted to the chair. The name wraps around me like chains, getting tighter and tighter until I can't breathe. I wake up gasping, sheets tangled around my legs, heart hammering. Vivienne is still asleep beside me, her breathing deep and even. The clock on the nightstand reads 3:47 a.m. I slip out of bed carefully and pad to the kitchen, pouring myself water I don't really want. Through the window, the city is a patchwork of lights and shadows. I think about all the people out there, awake at this hour for their own reasons. How many of them are grappling with ghosts? My phone sits on the counter where I left it. Against my better judgment, I pick it up and scroll back through the messages from yesterday. Mom's, you owe him nothing. Dad's, we're here. Vivienne's, you're not doing this alone. And then the unknown number. Please, just 5 minutes. I should delete it. Block the number. Exercise this entire day from my life. Instead, I save it. Theodore Sr. The contact name feels strange, formal, but it's something. Proof that yesterday happened, that the ghost became flesh for 20 minutes in a coffee shop downtown. I don't know why I keep it. Can't sleep? I turn to find Vivienne in the doorway, wrapped in my old college sweatshirt, hair mussed from sleep. Didn't mean to wake you, I say. You didn't. Bad dreams? How'd you know? She comes over, wrapping her arms around me from behind. You get this look, haunted, like you're somewhere else. I lean back into her warmth. Tell me something true, I say. It's a game we've played since we first started dating. When things get too heavy, when the world feels too complicated, we trade truths, simple ones, grounding ones. Okay, she says. True thing. I love you. Not the version of you that has everything figured out. Not the you that's confident and strong all the time. I love this you, the one standing in the kitchen at 3 a.m., wrestling with demons. All of you. The knot in my chest loosens slightly. True thing, I reply. I don't know who I'd be without you. You'd be exactly who you are, she says, but maybe lonelier. We stand like that for a while, her chin resting on my shoulder, both of us looking out at the sleeping city. Do you think I should see him again? I ask. She's quiet for a long moment. I think that's not a question I can answer for you. But if you were me, I'm not you, Elle. I didn't live your life. I didn't carry that name or that weight. Only you know what you need. I don't know what I need, I admit. That's the problem. Then maybe you don't decide right now. Maybe you sit with it. Let it settle. And if he dies before I figure it out, then he dies, she says gently. And you live with that decision. But you don't owe him a timeline, baby. His mortality doesn't obligate you to anything. She's right. Logically, I know she's right. But there's something nagging at me, some incomplete equation I can't quite solve. I keep thinking about my name, I tell her, about how it was supposed to tie me to him, and instead it became this thing I had to escape. And now he's dying, and I'm Elliot Reeve, and he's just this stranger, this genetic contributor. And I wonder if that's enough, if I can let him be nothing and be okay with that. Can you? She asks. I don't know. I thought I could. For 5 years, I thought I'd successfully moved on. But seeing him yesterday, it brought everything back. All the anger, all the grief, like I'd just been holding it at arm's length instead of actually processing it. Maybe that's okay too. Maybe moving on doesn't mean forgetting or forgiving. Maybe it just means building a life good enough that the past can't touch it as easily. I turn in her arms to face her. In the dim kitchen light, she looks younger, softer, but her eyes are clear and knowing. How'd you get so wise? I ask. Therapy, she says with a small smile. Lots and lots of therapy. And watching you navigate this stuff, you've taught me a lot about resilience. I don't feel resilient. I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Those aren't mutually exclusive. By morning, I still haven't decided anything. But I go to work, fall into the familiar rhythm of emails and meetings and problems I can actually solve. My boss, Octavia, catches me staring blankly at my computer screen around 11. Everything okay? She asks, hovering in my cubicle entrance. Fine, I lie. Just tired. She doesn't look convinced. You need a personal day? We can cover. No, I'm good, really. She lingers for another moment, then nods. Doors open if you need it. Octavia's been good about that, understanding when I need space, available when I don't. It's one of the reasons I've stayed at this company for 3 years, which in the tech world is practically a lifetime. At lunch, I drive to my parents' house without consciously deciding to do it. My hands just steer there automatically, muscle memory from years of Sunday dinners and holiday visits. Mom answers the door in paint-splattered jeans. She's been working on her art again, which means she's processing something heavy. When I was a kid, I learned to read her moods by checking her studio. Dark colors meant dark thoughts. Bright colors meant she was fighting her way back to the light. Elle, she says, surprised. I wasn't expecting you. Can I come in? Of course, baby. Always. The house smells like coffee and turpentine. Dad's at work. He's a civil engineer, steady 9 to 5. Mom leads me to the kitchen and pours me a cup without asking. I met him, I say. She freezes mid-pour, coffee splashing slightly over the rim. Yesterday? Yeah. And? I tell her about the coffee shop, the conversation, the apologies that felt both real and insufficient. She listens with the intensity she's perfected over decades of single motherhood, fully present, absorbing every word. When I finish, she's quiet for a long time. Do you regret it? She asks finally. Going? No, maybe. I don't know. I run my hands through my hair. Mom, why did you really give me his name? The full name, the junior designation, all of it? She sits down across from me, cradling her own mug. Because I was 19 and stupid and in love. Because I thought if I made you his namesake, he'd see himself in you and stay. It was magical thinking, honey. The kind you do when you're desperate. Did you know? I ask. That he'd leave? I suspected. He was already pulling away when I found out I was pregnant. But I didn't want to believe it, so I made this grand gesture with your name, like a binding spell. And when he left anyway, I couldn't undo it. Every time I looked at you, I saw his name attached to you, and I felt like I'd branded you with my failure. I wish you'd changed it, I tell her. When I was little, before I was old enough to feel the weight of it. I thought about it, she admits. After Raymond and I got married, we talked about him adopting you, giving you his name. But by then you were almost 5, and I worried it would confuse you. And part of me, she trails off looking guilty. Part of you still hoped he'd come back. I finish for her. She nods, eyes shining. I'm so sorry, baby. I let my own denial hurt you. That name was a weight you should never have had to carry. It wasn't your fault, I say, but the words feel automatic, rehearsed. It was, though. Maybe not the leaving. That was all him. But the name, the hoping, the not letting you grieve what you never had. That's on me. I should have helped you process it instead of pretending it didn't matter. We sit with that truth for a moment. He has cancer, I say. Stage 4. He's dying. Mom closes her eyes briefly. I'm sorry. Are you? I'm sorry for what it means for you. For this choice you have to make. For the timing of it. That he only comes back when death forces his hand. Do you think I should see him again? Oh, honey, I can't tell you that. That's your decision. But if you could tell me, if you had advice, what would it be? She considers this carefully, choosing her words with precision. I'd say that sometimes closure isn't a clean thing. Sometimes it's messy and incomplete and leaves you with more questions than answers. But at least it's something. At least it's real. The alternative is wondering what if for the rest of your life. So you think I should go back. I think you should do whatever protects your peace. If that means seeing him again, okay. If it means walking away and never looking back, that's okay too. There's no wrong answer here, Elle. Just different kinds of difficult. Dad comes home while we're talking, his presence shifting the energy in the room immediately. He's solid and grounding, with gray at his temples and laugh lines around his eyes. He takes one look at me and knows. We talking about Theodore? He asks, setting his briefcase down. Yeah. He pours himself coffee and joins us at the table. How you holding up, kid? Honestly? I don't know. Fair enough. It's a lot. Did you ever think about finding him? I ask suddenly. Back when I was growing up, did you ever want to track him down and make him step up? Dad considers this. Sure. When you were younger and would ask why your first dad didn't love you, those moments made me want to find him and beat some sense into him. But that wouldn't have helped you. It would have just made me feel better. And parenting isn't about making yourself feel better. It's about showing up for your kid. You did that, I tell him. You showed up. I tried to. Still trying to. He reaches across and squeezes my shoulder. Look, I don't know what the right move is here. I can't tell you whether to see him again or not, but I can tell you that whatever you decide, we're in your corner. And if you need backup, if you want me to come with you to meet him, or if you want me to tell him to back off, I'll do it. No questions asked. The offer makes my throat tight. Thanks, Dad. That's what I'm here for. I don't text Theodore Sr. right away. Instead, I let 3 days pass, going through the motions of normal life while the question sits in the back of my mind like an itch I can't scratch. On Thursday evening, Vivian drags me to dinner with her brother, Holden, and his fiancée, Delphine. We meet at a Thai place downtown, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, I'm not great company. I can feel myself being distant, distracted, but nobody calls me on it. Elliot's having a crisis, Vivian announces halfway through appetizers. Viv, I protest. What? They should know. You're being weird. Holden raises an eyebrow. What kind of crisis? So I tell them, because apparently this is my life now, processing my trauma in public. Holden and Delphine listen with the kind of attention that makes me understand why Vivian loves them both so much. Damn, Holden says when I finish. That's heavy. Do you want advice? Or do you just want us to listen? Delphine asks. She's practical like that, always making sure she understands the parameters before wading in. I don't know. Both? Neither? Okay, here's what I think, Holden says, leaning forward. You're looking at this like there's a right answer. Like you can choose correctly and everything will be fine. But there isn't a right answer. Both options suck in different ways. So maybe the question isn't what's right. It's what you can live with. Meaning, fast forward 10 years. He's dead. This is over. Which decision leaves you with less regret? Seeing him again or not? I think about it. Really think about it. I don't know. Then flip it, Delphine suggests. What are you afraid will happen if you see him again? That I'll feel obligated to keep seeing him. That he'll try to build some relationship I don't want. That his dying will become my responsibility somehow. And if you don't see him again, that I'll wonder what else he had to say. That maybe there was something worth hearing and I missed it because I was too angry. So you're damned either way, Vivian says. Pretty much. Then maybe it comes down to which version of damned you prefer, Holden says. The active kind, where you engage and potentially get hurt? Or the passive kind, where you protect yourself but always wonder? It's a good question. Too good. I've spent most of my life in the passive version, I say slowly. Protecting myself from him by pretending he didn't exist. Building walls so thick that his absence couldn't touch me. And how'd that work out? Delphine asks gently. It didn't. The walls kept me safe, but they also kept me stuck. I thought changing my name would be enough, that it would cut the cord completely. But seeing him brought everything back, like the walls were just illusions. So maybe it's time to tear them down, Vivian suggests. Not to let him in, not to forgive or reconcile, but just to stop hiding from it. To face the thing head on and deal with whatever comes. That sounds terrifying. It probably will be, she admits. But you're not alone in it. And at least it's movement. At least it's something other than this limbo you're in. On Friday afternoon, I text Theodore Sr. me. Can we meet again? The response comes within minutes. Yes. When? Me. Tomorrow. Same place. 2 p.m. Theodore Sr. I'll be there. Thank you. I don't respond to that. Instead, I tell Vivian what I've done, and she immediately offers to come with me. You don't have to, I say. I know. I want to. It might be uncomfortable, messy. I've seen you sick with food poisoning. I've seen you cry during sad commercials. I've seen you at your messiest. This doesn't scare me. So that's how I end up back at the coffee shop on Saturday with my girlfriend as backup. She doesn't come inside. We agreed she'd wait in the car, available if needed, but not hovering, giving me space to do this on my own terms. Theodore Sr. is already there when I arrive, sitting at the same table. He looks worse than he did 3 days ago. Thinner, more exhausted. The cancer is eating him from the inside, and it shows. Elliot, he says, standing. I wasn't sure you'd come back. Neither was I. I sit down across from him, but I have questions. Things I need to understand. Okay, I'll answer anything. Why didn't you ever reach out? I ask. In 22 years, not a phone call, not a letter, not a birthday card. Why? He looks down at his hands. Fear, mostly, and shame. The longer I stayed away, the harder it became to imagine coming back. How do you call after 2 years? After 5? After 10? The gap kept getting wider, and I kept telling myself it was too late, that I'd done too much damage. That's cowardice, I say. Not an explanation. You're right, but it's the truth. I was a coward. I am a coward. I've been running from hard things my whole life, and you were the hardest thing I ever faced. Because I was a baby? Because you had to be responsible for someone? Because you deserved better than I could give, and instead of rising to meet that challenge, I ran from it. Did you ever think about me? The question comes out smaller than I intended, almost childlike. His face crumples. Every day, every single day. I'd see kids your age and wonder if you were tall or short, quiet or loud. I'd wonder if you were good at sports or music or math, if you were happy, if you even remembered me. I didn't, I tell him honestly. I have no memories of you. You're just a gap, an absence, the shape of what wasn't there. He absorbs this like a physical blow. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. I need more than apologies. I need understanding. Did you ever try to come back? Did you ever get close? Once, he admits. You were 7. I drove to your elementary school and parked across the street during recess. I watched you play on the playground with other kids. You were laughing at something, running around, happy, and I realized you were fine without me. You had a life I wasn't part of, and I convinced myself that me showing up would just disrupt that I'd be inserting myself into something that was working without me. That's bullshit, I say, but there's less heat in it than before. You could have introduced yourself, could have tried. I know, but I didn't, and I left, and I didn't come back. I met someone a few years later, Patricia. We were together for 8 years. She knew about you. She pushed me to reach out to try to make contact, but I kept finding excuses. And then we broke up, and I used that as another excuse. My life was always too unstable, too messy. I was always about to turn a corner, get my act together, become someone worthy of being your father. But that corner never came, because you never took it, I say. You kept waiting for life to fix itself instead of doing the work. Yes, exactly that. I wasted decades waiting to be ready, and now I've run out of time. We sit in silence for a moment. Around us, the coffee shop hums with normal life, students studying, couples talking, the hiss of the espresso machine. All these people going about their Saturday, unaware that my entire sense of history is being rearranged. I need you to understand something, I tell him. I didn't come here to forgive you. I don't know if I can. Maybe ever. I understand. But I also need you to understand that your choices shaped my entire childhood. Every time I had to explain why my last name didn't match my parents. Every father-son event where dad had to step in because you weren't there. Every time I looked in the mirror and saw your face looking back at me. You weren't there, but you were everywhere. And that fucked me up in ways I'm still working through. I know, he whispers. God, I know. And I hate that I did that to you. Then why are you here now? I challenge. What do you want from these meetings? He takes a long breath. Honestly, I want to know you. Even just a little. I want to know what kind of man you became. What you do, who you love, what makes you laugh. I want to see the person I helped create, even if I had no hand in raising you. That feels selfish. It is selfish. Most of what I've done regarding you has been selfish, but it's also true. I want to know my son before I die. The word, son, lands heavy between us. I don't think I can be your son, I say carefully. That role is filled. Raymond earned it by showing up, by being present, by doing all the things you didn't. I know, and I'm not asking to replace him. I couldn't if I tried. I'm just asking for, I don't even know, connection maybe. Acknowledgement that I existed in your life, even if only as a cautionary tale. Something about his honesty, the raw, unvarnished truth of it, cracks something in my chest. Ask me something, I hear myself say. About my life. One question. Hope flares in his eyes, cautious and fragile. Are you happy? It's not what I expected. Not, what do you do for work, or are you married, or any of the standard getting to know you questions. Just, are you happy? I consider lying. Consider giving him the easy answer. But something about this moment, the weight of it, the finality, demands truth. Most of the time, yes, I say. I have a good job as a software developer. I live with my girlfriend, Vivienne, and we've been together for 3 years. I have friends and hobbies and a life that feels stable in mine. But there's also this, I gesture vaguely, this pocket of unresolved grief that flares up sometimes, usually when I least expect it. Like I'll see a father with his kid at the grocery store and it'll hit me that I never had that with you, that I never will. He nods, eyes wet. That's fair. That's more than fair. My turn, I say. Why did you really leave? Not the excuse about being too young or too scared. The real reason. He's quiet for a long time, thinking. When he speaks, his voice is raw. I was raised by a man who thought love was weakness, who taught me that vulnerability was failure. My father, your grandfather, was hard, cold. He measured worth in earnings and toughness. When I found out your mom was pregnant, my first thought wasn't joy or fear. It was, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be soft enough to love a child. And instead of learning, instead of trying, I ran. Because that's what I knew. How to leave before I could fail. How to avoid the hard thing instead of growing into it. It's the most honest thing he said yet. Did you ever break that pattern? I ask. No, not really. I've left jobs, relationships, cities, always running from the hard conversations, the difficult growth. The cancer is the first thing I can't run from. And even now, part of me wants to disappear into the ending instead of facing it. But you're here. I'm here. Terrified, but here. I study him. This man who is genetically my father, but functionally a stranger. I can see echoes of myself in his face. The shared DNA undeniable. But I can also see the profound differences shaped by our separate lives. I can't promise you anything, I tell him. I can't promise I'll keep meeting you. I can't promise forgiveness or reconciliation or some deathbed peace, but I can promise that I'll think about it, that I'll consider whether there's space in my life for whatever this is. That's more than I deserve, he says. Thank you. Vivienne is waiting in the car with coffee and questions. I slide into the passenger seat and accept the cup gratefully. How'd it go? She asks. Weird, hard, but maybe necessary? Talk me through it. So I do, recounting the conversation while she drives us nowhere in particular, just circling the city blocks while I process. She listens without judgment, occasionally asking clarifying questions, but mostly just being present. So what now? She asks eventually. I don't know. Maybe I see him again. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just let this sit for a while and see how I feel. That sounds healthy. Does it? Because I feel like I'm just avoiding a decision, or giving yourself time to make one that isn't reactive. There's a difference. We end up at the waterfront, parking overlooking the harbor. It's cold enough that our breath fogs the windows, but we sit there anyway, watching boats bob in the distance. Can I ask you something? Vivienne says. Always. What would you need from him, from Theodore, to feel like seeing him again is worth it? Not forgiveness necessarily, but what would make it valuable for you? I think about this. Honesty, I guess. Real honesty. Not the kind that's designed to make him look better. I want to understand him, not as a cautionary tale or a villain, but as an actual person who made terrible choices. Because I think if I can understand that, if I can see him as fully human, then maybe I can put this to rest. That makes sense? Does it? Because sometimes I think I'm just overcomplicating something simple. He left, he's dying, he wants absolution. The end. But you're not simple, she says. And this situation isn't simple. So of course your response isn't simple. I wish it was. I wish I could just hate him cleanly, or forgive him completely, or not care at all. But instead, I'm in this messy middle where I feel everything and nothing all at once. She reaches over and takes my hand. The messy middle is where most of us live, Elle. It's not a failure. It's just real. Over the next 2 weeks, I meet Theodore Sr. 3 more times. The second meeting is at a park, his suggestion. He's feeling stronger that day, he says, and wants to be outside. We walk slowly along paved paths while he tells me about his life in broad strokes. The years after he left Mom, the relationships that failed, the jobs that never quite worked out. He doesn't dress it up or make excuses, just lays it out plainly. I made bad choices, and they compounded. I tell him about my childhood in return, though I don't sugarcoat it. I tell him about the confusion of being Theodore Jr. while having a different dad, about the kids at school who'd ask intrusive questions, about the moment I decided to change my name and the relief that came with it. He listens with the intensity of someone trying to memorize every word. The third meeting is at his apartment, a small, neat one-bedroom in a part of town I rarely visit. He's having a bad day physically, he warns me when I arrive. The cancer is aggressive, and the treatment makes him nauseous, but he wanted to show me something. Photographs. Dozens of them spread across his coffee table. Pictures of me at various ages. School photos, yearbook pictures, even a few candid shots from what looks like soccer games or concerts. He's been following my life from a distance, collecting proof of my existence like someone pressing flowers. I know it's creepy, he says, seeing my expression. I know it probably makes you uncomfortable, but I needed you to know that I was aware of you, that I saw you growing up, even if I wasn't part of it. I pick up a photo from when I was maybe 13, all gangly limbs and braces. Where did you get these? Your mom sent me school pictures for a few years. After that, I found other ways. Public records, social media. I never reached out, never commented or liked anything, but I watched. It should creep me out, and part of me is unsettled by it, but mostly I just feel sad, for both of us. Him, on the outside looking in at a life he could have been part of. Me, unaware that I was being observed by a ghost. This must have hurt, I say, seeing me grow up from a distance. Every single time, he admits. But it was the hurt I deserved. Penance, maybe. Or just masochism. Probably both. The fourth meeting happens spontaneously. I'm grocery shopping on a Tuesday evening when my phone rings. It's Theodore. I'm sorry to bother you, he says, and his voice sounds wrong, weak. I'm having a hard night, and I don't have anyone else to call. The admission, its nakedness, cracks something open in me. Where are you? Home. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I abandon my half-full cart and drive to his apartment. When he opens the door, he looks terrible, pale and shaking, clearly in pain. The cancer is winning, and we both know it. I shouldn't have called, he says. You don't need to. Shut up, I tell him, not unkindly. Let me help. I end up staying for 3 hours. I don't do much. Make him tea, find his pain medication, sit with him while the worst of it passes. We don't talk much, but there's something in the silence that feels significant. Like we're finally existing in the same space without all the history crushing us. Why did you come? He asks eventually, when the pain has dulled enough for conversation. I don't know, I admit. Maybe because nobody should be alone when they're hurting. Not even you. That's more grace than I deserve. Probably, I agree. But I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it because it's who I want to be. Someone who shows up, even when it's hard. He looks at me with something like wonder. You turned out so much better than me. I had better teachers. It's during the fifth meeting, back at the coffee shop, our unofficial neutral ground, that things shift. Theodore orders tea instead of coffee, his hands too shaky for the hotter liquid. He's lost more weight. His eyes are more sunken. Time is running out, and we both feel it pressing down. I need to tell you something, he says, and I need you to let me get through it without interrupting. Okay, he takes a breath, steadying himself. I've been keeping a journal since I found out about the cancer. It's not much, just thoughts, memories, things I want to say but don't know how. I'm leaving it to you. When I die, it's yours. You don't have to read it. You can burn it if you want. But I needed you to know it exists, that I tried in my clumsy way to leave you something more than apologies. Theodore, let me finish, he says gently. I know I don't get to suddenly be a father to you. I know I lost that right 22 years ago. But I can be a person who tells you the truth, who doesn't hide behind pretty excuses. And the truth is this. I was broken long before you were born. My father broke me, and I didn't know how to heal. So I broke your mother, and I broke you. And that pattern, that generational wound, ends with me. You don't have to carry it forward. You can be different, better. And from what I've seen, you already are. My throat is tight. I have something to tell you too. Okay, I'm angry with you. I probably always will be on some level, but I struggle with the words. I don't hate you. I thought I did. I wanted to. But sitting here, listening to you, seeing you dying, I just feel sad. For both of us. For what could have been and wasn't. That's fair. And I pause, making sure of what I'm about to say. I think I can accept that you're dying, that this is ending. But I need you to know that you don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to leave behind a cleaned up version of events where you were tragic but sympathetic. You were absent. That's the truth. And whatever journal you're leaving, it needs to include that truth, not excuses. Truth. It does, he promises. All of it. The worst of it. I'm not trying to rehabilitate myself posthumously. I just want you to understand the context. Not as justification, but as, as evidence that people are complicated. That we're all carrying damage and making choices from wounded places. And you want me to learn from that? I want you to be free of it. I want you to look at my life and see what not to do. How not to love, how not to run, how not to let fear dictate everything. And then I want you to do the opposite. It's the most parental thing he's said to me. I'll read it, I tell him. When the time comes, I'll read your journal. Relief floods his face. Thank you. But I'm reading it for me, not for you. So I can understand. So I can finally put this to rest. That's all I'm asking. We sit in silence for a while, both of us knowing we're running out of time. Not just today, but in general. This is one of our last conversations, and we both feel it. Can I ask you something? He says. Yeah. Do you think you'll tell your kids about me? If you have kids someday? The question surprises me. I don't know. Maybe. Probably as a cautionary tale. That's fair. But if you do, if you tell them about me, tell them I was sorry. That I knew what I'd done was wrong. That that I spent my last months trying to make some kind of amends, however inadequate. Tell them that I loved you, even if I didn't know how to show it. Did you? I ask. Love me? Yes, he says without hesitation. From the moment you were born, that was never the question. The question was whether I loved you enough to overcome my own brokenness. And the answer was no. I loved you, but I loved my fear more. I loved my comfort more. And that's something I'll regret until my last breath. It's the most honest thing he's ever said to me. I believe you, I tell him, and I do. Theodore dies 3 weeks later. Mom calls me at work with the news. He'd been in hospice for 5 days, she says. They called her as his emergency contact. Apparently he'd never updated it after they broke up decades ago. She went to see him once, near the end. Told him he needed to make peace with whatever he could make peace with. How do you feel? She asks me. Empty, I say. Is that weird? No, baby. It's normal. You've been grieving him your whole life. This is just the final chapter. I leave work early and drive to Vivian's office. She takes one look at my face and tells her boss she's taking the rest of the day. We go home and sit on the couch, her arms around me while I try to process. I don't know what to feel, I admit. I'm not sad exactly, but I'm not relieved either. I'm just blank. You don't have to feel anything specific, she says. There's no right way to grieve someone who was barely in your life. I keep thinking about the journal. He said he was leaving me a journal. Do you want to read it? Yes. No. Maybe. I don't know. You don't have to decide right now, but I do read it eventually. A week after the funeral, a small affair attended by me, Mom, Dad, Vivian, and a handful of people I don't recognize. A package arrives at my apartment. Inside is a worn leather journal with my name on the cover, written in Theodore's shaky handwriting. I don't open it for 3 days. It sits on my coffee table like a bomb, and I circle around it, afraid of what it might contain. When I finally crack it open, Vivian is sitting next to me for support. The first entry is dated 6 months ago. I found out today that I'm dying. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctor said it with the kind of clinical detachment that makes you realize you're just another statistic to him. But I'm not a statistic. I'm a man who wasted his life running from the one thing that mattered, my son. I don't know if he'll ever read this. I don't know if I'll have the courage to give it to him, but I need to write it anyway. I need to put down on paper all the things I never said. Maybe it'll matter. Maybe it won't, but at least I'll have tried. The entries continue, sometimes daily, sometimes with gaps. He writes about his childhood, his relationship with his own father, the moment he found out Mom was pregnant. He writes about leaving and the years after, about the relationships that failed and the reasons they failed. He writes about watching me grow up from a distance and the pain of being a ghost in my life. But he also writes about me, about the man he's seen me become. He writes about our coffee shop meetings with an almost reverent detail, like he's trying to memorize every word. He writes about the moment I told him I changed my name and how it felt like being erased, but also like I was finally free of him. The final entry is dated 2 days before he went into hospice. I saw Elliot today. He came when I called, even though he had no obligation to. He sat with me while I was in pain, made me tea, just existed in my space without judgment. And I realized he's everything I could have been if I hadn't been so afraid. He's kind without being weak. He's strong without being hard. He shows up. I don't get to take credit for any of that. Raymond raised him. Life taught him. But I get to witness it. And that's more than I deserve. If you're reading this, Elliot, it means I'm gone. And I hope you can finally be free of me. Free of the weight of my name, my absence, my failures. I hope you build a life so full and beautiful that you barely remember I existed. But if you do remember me, remember this. You were loved. Badly, inadequately, from a distance. But loved. And I'm sorry it wasn't enough. I closed the journal with shaking hands. What are you thinking? Vivian asked softly. I'm thinking that he was right. About everything. He loved me badly. He failed me completely. But he saw it. He named it. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that's all the closure I'm going to get. Is it enough? I think about it. Really think about it. About the anger I've carried. The grief. The weight of being named after someone who didn't stay. About changing my name and building my life and becoming Elliot Reeve. About these last months of coffee shop meetings and difficult conversations and watching a stranger die. Yeah, I say finally. I think it is. 6 months later, I'm standing in a courthouse for the second time in my life, but this time I'm not alone. Vivian is beside me, both of us dressed up for the occasion. Mom and Dad are here too, along with Holden and Delphine. We're getting married. Small ceremony, just the people who matter. The judge asks if I, Elliot Reeve, take Vivian as my wife. I say yes without hesitation. When it's done, when we're legally bound to each other, Dad pulls me aside. I'm proud of you, he says. Not just for today, for everything. For how you handled Theodore. For who you've become. I learned from the best, I tell him. He hugs me, and over his shoulder I catch my reflection in a window. Elliot Reeve, husband, software developer, son of Raymond and Mom. Not Theodore Jr., not a monument to absence. Just myself, fully and completely. That evening, at the small reception in my in-laws' backyard, I find myself thinking about names again. About the weight we give them. The power we let them hold. I think about how I used to hate hearing Theodore called out. How it felt like being punched. And I think about how, now, it's just a story I can tell. A wound that healed into a scar. Hey, Vivian says, finding me alone by the fence line. You okay? Yeah, I say. I really am. Thinking about him? A little. Is that weird? On our wedding day? No. He's part of your story. You don't have to pretend he wasn't. I pull her close. Thank you. For what? For being patient with me while I figured all this out. For not pushing me to forgive him or hate him or feel any particular way. For just letting me be messy and complicated and human. That's love, she says simply. The real kind. The kind that shows up even when it's hard. And I think, yes, that's exactly it. Love isn't a name you give someone to anchor them to you. It's not a genetic connection or a legal document. It's showing up. It's making tea when someone's in pain. It's sitting with them in their confusion. It's choosing every day to be present. Theodore Sr. never learned that, but I did. And that pattern, that generational wound he talked about, it ends with me. I won't pass it forward. I'll pass forward what Dad taught me instead. How to stay, how to show up, how to love someone enough to do the hard work. Later that night, after the reception, after saying goodbye to everyone, Vivian and I are alone in our apartment. She's changing out of her dress, and I'm loosening my tie, and everything feels simultaneously surreal and perfectly right. Can I tell you something? I ask. Always. I don't regret meeting him, at the end. Even though it was hard and messy and brought up all that old pain, I don't regret it. Why not? Because it gave me closure, I think. Real closure. Not the pretend kind. I got to see him as a person, not a villain, and that somehow made it possible to let go. To stop carrying him around like a weight. So you've forgiven him. I think about this carefully. No, I don't think I have, and maybe I never will. But I've accepted it. The whole thing. His leaving, his dying, all of it. I've accepted that it happened and that it shaped me, but it doesn't define me. Does that make sense? Perfect sense. We crawl into bed, exhausted from the day, but content. As I'm drifting off, I think about the journal sitting in my nightstand drawer. I've read it 3 times now, each time finding something new. Eventually, maybe years from now, I'll be able to put it away for good, to let Theodore rest. But for now, it's okay that he's still part of my story. Not the main character. Not even close. Just a chapter. A difficult, painful chapter that taught me what not to do. And maybe that's the gift, in the end. Not his presence, but his absence. Not his love, but the lesson in what love isn't. I built my life in the space he left behind, and it's a good life, a full life, the kind of life he never managed to create for himself. Theodore Vincent Ashford Jr. died in a courthouse when I was 18, and Elliot Reeve was born. And Elliot Reeve, this person I fought to become, is exactly who I want to be. The name fits. Finally, completely, it fits. And that's enough. 5 years later, the baby is crying at 3 a.m., and I'm stumbling down the hallway in a fog of exhaustion when Vivian appears in the nursery doorway. I've got her, she says. You got up last time. You sure? Go back to bed, Elle. But I don't. Instead, I lean against the doorframe and watch my wife lift our daughter, Margot Reeve, named after my grandmother, from her crib. Watch her settle into the rocking chair, our baby girl calming almost immediately at the sound of her mother's heartbeat. This, I think, this is what it looks like. Showing up at 3 a.m., being present even when you're exhausted, choosing, again and again, to do the hard work of love. Margot will never wonder if I wanted her. She'll never carry my name like a burden. She'll know bone deep that she was chosen and wanted and shown up for. That pattern, that generational wound, it ends with me. I ended it. And in the quiet of this 3 a.m. moment, with my wife singing softly to our daughter, I think about Theodore Sr. and his journal and his last words to me. I hope you build a life so full and beautiful that you barely remember I existed. Mission accomplished. I built something beautiful, something whole, something that has nothing to do with him and everything to do with the people who taught me what love actually looks like. Mom and Dad are coming over tomorrow, Sunday dinner tradition. Holden and Delphine will probably stop by too, along with their twin boys. Our chosen family, our real family, the people who show up. Vivian looks up and catches me watching. You okay? She mouths. I nod. More than okay. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And Theodore Vincent Ashford Sr.? He's just a story now. A sad story about a man who ran from the best thing that ever happened to him. A cautionary tale I might tell Margot someday when she's old enough to understand. But tonight, in this moment, he's barely a memory. Because I'm too busy being present to dwell on someone who wasn't. And that finally feels like freedom.